a long time, and it hurts me that I've never been able to see us have a successful season, have a great quarterback outside of Dan Marino. We've been looking for that position for a very long time. I thought Tua was the answer. I still think Tua was the answer. It's too soon to hit the panic button. Everybody can't be this superstar tier 1 quarterback like Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Everybody can't get that. But what we can have an adequate quarterback.
What happens when the Miami Dolphins come crashing into Cleveland's front office, demanding Shedeur Sanders? You get one of the wildest soap operas the NFL has seen in years. Andrew Berry thought his biggest problem was balancing the depth chart. But Miami just lit a fire under the Browns by circling their golden rookie like a shark sensing blood in the water. Cleveland drafted Shedeur to be the future, the quarterback who could finally end decades of heartbreak. Fans were ready, the hype was real, and for once there was hope. But then reality hit. Kevin Stefanski locked him to the bench, treating Shedeur like some experiment instead of the spark Cleveland has been begging for. Week after week, he's standing on the sidelines holding a clipboard while fans are left screaming for answers.
He already Shedeur won the 2 damn competitions that existed and you still didn't care. You just wanted Dylan. It is not because Dylan is a preference for Stefanski. It is because the culture in Cleveland doesn't support a black franchise QB long term at the number 1 spot, drafted number 1 or drafted 144. They thought they could pigeonhole him there.
Now Miami has entered the storyline, and they're not whispering. They see Shedeur as plug and play, ready to elevate an already electric offense. Imagine Shedeur lining up with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's not just football. That's a highlight reel waiting to happen. And suddenly, Cleveland looks less like a franchise building a future and more like the clueless guy holding a winning lottery ticket but refusing to cash it in. This isn't just about play calling anymore. It's about pride, ego, and a fan base that's tired of watching the same tired script play out again. The Browns are sitting on a diamond, and other teams are ready to steal it. If Cleveland fumbles this, it won't just be another mistake. It could be the one that defines their entire era. Before we dive in, drop a comment. Which city are you watching from? And should Shedeur stay loyal to Cleveland or escape to Miami? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns.
It's starting to swirl, man. We getting some new information out of Cleveland that the Cleveland Browns veteran players are about to turn their back on Kevin Stefanski. And is he losing control over the locker room? Now, we've seen this whole quarterback situation play out through the draft. We've seen what's happening in the training camp, seen what's happening in practice, and we've seen what's happening in preseason. Now, all camp long, there's report.
Andrew Berry probably thought it was just another quiet day in the office. A little paperwork, a little film study, maybe even a coffee break while pretending Cleveland had some master 5-year plan. But then came the chaos. The Miami Dolphins didn't knock politely. They stormed in like it was WrestleMania, demanding Shedeur Sanders as if he was the final piece to their Super Bowl puzzle. This wasn't some harmless rumor floating around Twitter. This was the kind of full-blown trade chatter that makes GMs choke on their coffee. Miami wasn't just browsing the market. They were circling like sharks, ready to pounce. And in their eyes, Shedeur wasn't a project for the future. He was a quarterback built to win now. Imagine the scene. Miami, a team already stacked with speed demons like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, suddenly plugging in Sanders. That's not football anymore. That's Mario Kart with the turbo button stuck. The Dolphins don't waste their time on maybes. If they're knocking, it means they see greatness. And that's where Cleveland looks ridiculous. Because while other teams are treating Shedeur like a diamond, the Browns are treating him like a water boy. Kevin Stefanski is polishing his clipboard, clinging to a system that looks rustier by the day, while Andrew Berry is caught in the middle like a referee and a family brawl. Fans see the contradiction. They watch Miami glowing with confidence in a player their own coach refuses to unleash. They watch rival teams lining up with trade offers, while Cleveland pretends everything is part of the plan. And deep down, they know exactly what's happening. Once again, their franchise is sitting on something special and somehow managing to fumble it before it even begins. But this wasn't the whole story, because as Miami circled, another storm was already brewing inside Cleveland's own walls.
A lot of work that gets done when you guys aren't out there, believe it or not. But even that's, and I say that, Mary Kay, even in a meeting or in a walkthrough, just our guys are getting exposed to a lot. Different, every day we're mixing and matching, if you will, giving guys different looks. I've told you before, it's not going to be a 25% down the middle type thing, or I guess down to fourth, but we're trying to expose the guys to different things. This is an all-encompassing evaluation, so we were evaluating the guys during phase one.
Inside the Browns building, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. On one side sits Andrew Berry, the GM who staked his reputation on drafting Shedeur Sanders. To him, this isn't just another rookie quarterback. This is the future, the face of the franchise, the one move that might finally erase decades of quarterback misery. Berry has gone on record calling Shedeur the guy, the player Cleveland can build around. Every trade offer, every rumor about Miami or any other team circling is like a direct shot at his vision. On the other side is Kevin Stefanski, clutching his playbook like it's holy scripture. He's a system-first coach, obsessed with control, and terrified of what happens if he lets go of the wheel. Stefanski doesn't see Sanders as a savior. He sees him as a threat, a quarterback too unpredictable, too electric, too unwilling to fit into the rigid mold of his carefully crafted offense. To Stefanski, handing the keys to Shedeur would be like tossing a grenade into a system, and he'd rather go down with the ship than admit his way might be broken. That divide has created a cold war in Cleveland. Berry pushes for the future. Stefanski digs his heels into the present. Fans are stuck in the crossfire, watching the franchise split itself in half while Sanders wastes away on the bench. Every press conference turns into theater. Berry praising potential, Stefanski mumbling excuses, and reporters desperately trying to decode who's really in charge. And the longer it drags on, the worse it looks. If the GM believes in Shedeur and the coach refuses to play him, then one thing is clear. Someone's lying to the fans. And in a city that's already drowning in distrust, that's a dangerous game to play.
Ski refuses to answer Shedeur questions about who's going to get the first rep or who's going to take this amount of reps or lineups and stuff like that.
I mean, we don't pay too close attention to thinking
Will it change tomorrow?
will you be here? Yeah, I'll see you here.
And you should have been prepared for all of this. Right when we saw that moment when you drafted him and y'all looked at disinterested.
But the battle inside the building is only part of the story. Outside, the fan base isn't waiting quietly anymore. They're preparing to erupt. For decades, Browns fans have been the definition of loyal. They've endured losing seasons, draft busts, and heartbreaks so painful it became part of the city's identity. But this Shedeur Sanders saga, this feels different. This feels personal. And the fans aren't holding back anymore. On social media, the revolt is loud. Hashtags demanding Shedeur's debut trend every Sunday. Photoshop edits of him wearing a Miami Dolphins jersey flood timelines. Some fans are even starting petitions, calling for him to either play immediately or be traded somewhere that will value him. It's not just about winning anymore. It's about respect. Whispers have turned into shouts. Some fans believe Stefanski's refusal to play Shedeur isn't about readiness, but about ego, or worse. Conspiracy theories swirl that Cleveland's culture has never been built to fully support a black quarterback long-term, and that the franchise is repeating the same old mistakes under a different disguise. Whether true or not, The fact that fans even believe it shows how fractured the trust has become. And when trust is gone, loyalty doesn't last long. At games, chants ripple through the stadium. "We want Shedeur." Signs pop up in the stands calling for Stefanski's job. Even diehards who've spent years defending the team are beginning to say out loud what they once only muttered under their breath. If they will play him, trade him. That's how bad it's gotten. Fans who bleed orange and brown would rather see Sanders ball out in another team's colors than rot on the bench in Cleveland. That's not disloyalty to the franchise. It's loyalty to the player. And once fans cross that line, there's no going back.
We spent with Shedeur, and what he's done throughout his college career is impressive. He's an impressive young man. He's a really good quarterback. Sometimes fit comes into.
Picture this, Andrew.
Should Miami make a new move, Ocho?
It's only week 1, huh? It's no time to hit the panic
Man,
button.
the fans don't care about no week 1, week 2, week 10.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Now I'm part of the fans. I'm a true Dolphin fan.
The Browns thought they could keep control of the narrative, but now the city itself is pushing back. And this uprising isn't slowing down. It's only getting louder. But the chaos in the stands is just one piece of the disaster. Inside the locker room, the divide is starting to show. The storm outside Cleveland Stadium isn't just on social media or in the stands. It's seeping straight into the locker room. On the surface, the players put on their game faces. They smile for cameras, echo cliches about trusting the process, and pretend everyone's on the same page. But behind closed doors, the fracture lines are widening. The veterans, the guys who've been around the league long enough to know how fragile NFL careers can be, prefer the stability of Stefanski's cautious system. To them, Sanders represents risk. Risk means unpredictability, and unpredictability means jobs lost. For vets hanging on to roster spots, Stefanski's safe and boring blueprint feels like protection. But the younger players, they're restless. They see Shedeur lighting up practice, but feel the energy shift whenever his name is mentioned, and they can't understand why the Browns won't roll the dice. For them, this isn't just about football. It's about momentum, excitement, and believing in the guy who can flip the whole narrative. Every time Shedeur's benched, they see wasted opportunity. Every snap given to someone else feels like the team is punting its future. The divide isn't loud. Not yet. Nobody's screaming in meetings or throwing punches in practice. But you can feel it in the air. A quiet resentment. A locker room split into two camps. The old guard clinging to caution, and the young blood begging for change. And that kind of split is toxic. Football demands unity. A fractured team doesn't win, it implodes. The Browns might not admit it, but the longer Stefanski digs in his heels, the closer this locker room drifts toward open mutiny. Because once the players start choosing sides, it's no longer just about coaching strategy. It's about survival. But while Cleveland's locker room quietly tears itself apart, Miami is painting a very different picture. One where Shedeur isn't a problem, but the centerpiece of a dream offense. While Cleveland treats Shedeur Sanders like an afterthought, the Miami Dolphins are dreaming bigger. To them, he isn't a rookie project. He's the missing piece that could turn their already electric offense into a nightmare for defenses across the league. Picture it, Shedeur lining up under center, flanked by Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's not a football game anymore. That's a highlight reel waiting to happen. Every snap would feel like a video game on turbo mode. The Dolphins know exactly what they're doing. They've built a roster designed around speed, explosiveness, and unpredictability. Tua Tagovailoa has thrived in that system, but whispers of durability concerns never go away. That's why Shedeur looks so tempting to Miami. He's young, mobile, fearless, and has the kind of arm talent that could stretch the field in ways that keep defensive coordinators awake at night. For Miami, Sanders isn't just insurance. He's a chance to level up. And here's the part that stings for Cleveland fans. Miami's confidence in Shedeur makes the Browns look clueless. If another franchise with legitimate playoff hopes sees him as plug-and-play ready, how can his own team keep insisting he's not? Every rumor of a potential trade is a slap across the face of Browns Nation, proof that once again, other teams value Cleveland's players more than Cleveland does. Fans aren't blind to this. They're already sharing mock-ups of Shedeur in Dolphins teal, imagining what could be. Some are even admitting they'd rather watch him shine in Miami than watch him rot in Cleveland. That's how desperate the city has become. Because if Miami actually pulls the trigger and lands Sanders, the storyline writes itself. Cleveland's golden ticket wasted, Miami's gamble rewarded, and Shedeur lighting up highlight reels in primetime while the Browns keep spinning their wheels. But the Dolphins aren't the only ones watching. The national spotlight is starting to glare on Cleveland, and the headlines are brutal. By now, Cleveland isn't just dealing with an internal mess. The entire NFL world has tuned in, and the spotlight is blinding. Every sports network, every talk show, every podcast is running the same storyline. What's wrong in Cleveland? Bold letters flash across TV screens. Clips of Shedeur standing idle on the sideline play on repeat, and analysts shake their heads like they've seen this movie 100 times before. The jokes practically write themselves. Memes flood Twitter of Cleveland fumbling quarterbacks the same way they fumble playoff chances. Talk show hosts compare the Browns' handling of Shedeur to buying a Ferrari only to leave it parked in the garage while bragging about the Civic in the driveway. It's comedy for the rest of the league, but tragedy for Cleveland fans who are sick of being the punchline. And it's not just the media piling on. Rival general managers are circling like vultures, quietly dialing Andrew Berry to see if desperation has finally cracked him. Reports suggest multiple teams, from Atlanta to New England, even Minnesota, are already sketching trade proposals, hoping Cleveland stays stubborn long enough to lose control of the situation. Every snap Shedeur doesn't take feels like a louder signal. This kid is available. That perception is deadly, because once the league believes you don't value your own talent, they'll swoop in without hesitation. And the more Miami, Atlanta, or any other contender shows interest, the worse Cleveland looks. They don't just seem cautious anymore, they look incompetent. For the fans, watching their team become a national joke again is unbearable. Cleveland has been mocked for decades, but this time feels crueler because the answer is right there in front of them. A quarterback with star power, charisma, and talent, left to rot while the rest of the league salivates. And if you think the outside noise is bad, inside the building the pressure is about to hit a breaking point. Every circus has a finale, and in Cleveland, the showdown is coming fast. The Shedeur Sanders saga can't drag on forever. The pressure is building too quickly, the noise too loud, the consequences too big. At this point, only 3 paths exist, and none of them are clean. The first, Andrew Berry slams his fist on the table and forces Kevin Stefanski's hand. It would be the nuclear option, the GM overriding his head coach, demanding Shedeur take the field no matter what. It would cause fireworks inside the building. But for fans, it might feel like salvation. Finally, someone taking a stand for the future instead of clinging to a broken present. The second, Miami drops a trade package so massive the Browns can't refuse. Picks, players, maybe even a deal so heavy it reshapes both franchises. Cleveland would become a national laughingstock, the team that drafted its golden ticket only to gift wrap it for another contender. Imagine Sanders throwing bombs to Tyreek Hill while Cleveland scrambles once again to figure out who their quarterback even is. And the third, the nightmare scenario for Berry. Shedeur himself decides he's had enough. Maybe it starts as quiet frustration, then leaks through his agent, then becomes a trade demand the media runs with for weeks. Once a player feels unwanted, the clock starts ticking. And when your fan base is already siding with him over the franchise, you don't just risk losing a quarterback, you risk losing the locker room, the city, and the future all in one blow. That's the breaking point Cleveland is walking toward. Every game Shedeur sits, every excuse Stefanski offers, every rumor that goes unanswered pushes the Browns closer to disaster. The grenade pin is halfway pulled, and the only question left is who's going to be holding it when it explodes.